wellness revolution starts now.
Welcome to the program. My name is Bryana Gregory, pharmacist and physician liaison with Physicians Preference Pharmacy. And I'm going to be covering one of our most commonly dispensed repurposed drugs today called Sirolimus. This is also known as Rapamycin. It's one of our very fun ones to pronounce on our formulary, and we've been compounding it for several years now. When we talk about repurposed drugs, what we mean is that certain drugs that have been around for a very long time are now being used either for something different, a different indication, a different disease state, trying to optimize health maybe. And usually what we see is that to achieve this, they're dosed at a much lower dose most commonly, or they're dosed less frequently. So we're playing around with the pharmacokinetics of the drug itself to adjust its original purpose to achieve something differently. So that's why we call it repurposed. So Sirolimus has a very interesting drug history, and I love diving into this because it gives us some background about what the drug is used for and how it has morphed over time and brought us up to speed to serve its purpose today. So Sirolimus, or Rapamycin, is something that has been around for many years. It was actually initially discovered around the 1970s on an island called Rapa Nui, which is where it got its name Rapamycin from. So you've probably seen photos of this island. It's also known as Easter Island. It has a bunch of headstones on it. And interestingly, when this compound was discovered, it was discovered in the soil on that island. There was a much greater population of horses than people at that time, and people were also navigating around barefoot. It's way, way, way off the coast of Chile. And what the researchers found, it was interesting when they went down to this island from Canada to go and try and find compounds in the soil, which is where many pharmaceutical compounds are originally derived, is they thought it was interesting that the people that were navigating around barefoot didn't have more infections in their feet. So they thought, well, maybe there's something that's going on in the soil that's protecting that. So when they isolated this compound from the soil, what they found is that compound Rapamycin, aka Sirolimus, and they found out that initially it had antifungal, anti-inflammatory effects, antibacterial effects, and so they started to study it. Then it ended up getting approved as an organ anti-rejection drug. So when someone has a transplant, like a kidney transplant, for example, if you donate your kidney to me and I put it in my body knows it's foreign. So its job is to keep me alive. And so it is going to try and reject that kidney that you have just given to me. So for anyone that receives an organ transplant like that, they are forever on anti-rejection meds. And oftentimes when our patients are prescribed the Sirolimus or Rapamycin, they start Googling it or they put it in ChatGPT and they go, oh my gosh, I have not had an organ transplant. I shouldn't be on this drug. So that's why I open this up with it's a dosing or a dosing frequency conversation. Fast forward until now, there have been many studies that look at the importance of Sirolimus in longevity. So rather than dosing it at something like 40 milligrams a day to help you not reject the organ that you've just been given, we like to use it at a dose that is usually somewhere around 5 milligrams once a week. So 40 milligrams a day versus 5 milligrams once a week. This is where the pharmacokinetics get really interesting. So the half-life, how long after you take it does it have its max effect? How long after you take it does it wean itself out of the body, allows your body to hit reset, and then want and need that dose again, but not dosing it too soon. So just like with any other drug, initially there are rat studies that are done with medications like this, and then we fast forward to human studies. And in 2024 and early 2025, there were some interesting articles that were published summarizing a study that was completed in 2024 called the Pearl study. So the purpose of the study was a human study to evaluate the longevity benefits primarily of Rapamycin or Sirolimus. It's called the Participatory Evaluation of Aging with Rapamycin for Longevity. So much of the research in this area has looked at the longevity benefits that we get from dosing sirolimus or rapamycin once a week. So it was a 48-week trial, which had 114 participants in it, that either took 5 milligrams once a week or 10 milligrams once a week, or they just took a placebo. So it's like a blank pill. And this is the gold standard for study design. When we have a randomized controlled, it's a randomized controlled and it's placebo controlled as well. So basically they are comparing it to someone who is not taking the drug to one or multiple groups that are taking the drug so that they can evaluate the difference. So and also it's double blind. So no one knows who's getting what, therefore it's not biased. But what they were looking at is, of course, adverse events. So it was largely a safety study. Visceral adiposity, so fat around the midsection primarily, or around those vital organs. Any blood biomarkers, so how is the blood chemistry changing after taking this drug? Also lean tissue mass, which we want to gain because we want to have good, healthy tissue and muscle mass, but also bone mineral content. We don't want to lose bone minerals. We don't want to have osteoporosis. We also wonder, will it help to strengthen the bones? So again, largely a safety study. They still have to establish doses so that after they make sure that it's safe, then they can refine the efficacy and the dosing of it so that it can actually help people. But I want to share with you some of my takeaways from this Pearl study, because we get a lot of questions and actually some confusion about people who have read information or seen some videos on the internet in regard to the outcomes of the Pearl study. One of my jobs as a pharmacist is to dig into the literature and to understand that. Oftentimes, the way that literature is presented can be very biased. Even if the data is correct, it can be spun in a way and reported in a way that makes it look like something different. And in fact, I actually personally reached out to the organizer of this study because I was getting a lot of questions from patients, and I'll tell you what I mean. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the benefits that we see with rapamycin. So many of the reasons that prescribers would prescribe sirolimus or rapamycin to a patient and have it filled at physician's preference pharmacy is one, just the general desire for longevity, for increasing health span, which means that you're not just living longer, because that's longevity, but health span. How many years of healthy life do you have? So some of the common benefits are improved energy, decreased inflammation, smoother, tighter skin. Some people have even said that it helps them to maintain weight. So it's not considered a weight loss drug, but where this drug works in the body is on a system or a pathway and a receptor called the mTOR system, or mTOR receptor, or mTOR pathway. So it's little m, big TOR. So it stands for the mechanistic target of rapamycin. Just like many other receptors within the body, oftentimes those receptors are actually discovered because a drug that has been given to that person actually bound there to that receptor, but the receptor didn't have a name, so they have to name it something. So they named it mTOR, and it turns out that this mTOR pathway is extremely important in dictating aging. So if the mTOR pathway is not functioning well, and if it's overactive, that's when we get overactive cell activity, we get cancers, we get abnormal cell activity, we gain weight, we are toxic. The opposite end of that, when the mTOR pathway is functioning well, is we have good cellular autophagy, which is cellular housekeeping, it's detoxification, it's reduction in inflammation. And this drug inhibits that pathway, which means we get those good positive benefits, the reduction in inflammation, the offload of toxicity. That's why a lot of people explain that they have clarity of thought or lifting of the brain fog after they start taking something like sirolimus. Also, that smoother, tighter skin, that's also a functionality of releasing some of the toxins. It may also help you to receive your hormone therapy better, which can impact the integrity of the skin as well. And then the weight loss component or weight maintenance component is when we actually inhibit that mTOR pathway, it mimics fasting. And fasting is caloric restriction. With caloric restriction, you will likely have weight loss as long as during your feeding window you're not eating a ton of food. So takeaways from this particular study was that the most pronounced benefits were in men And it was their improved bone mineral content. Again, this was over a 48-week period for women with an improved increase in lean muscle mass. But they noticed that there was improved lean tissue mass across both of the groups that were being treated with rapamycin, improved bone mineral content, improvement in pain, in social functioning, and overall quality of life and overall osteoarthritis score. So improvement of that, increasing the density of the bones and bringing it back to baseline. Something that interesting that I noticed after my very first dose of rapamycin is that I felt like I started having a more positive outlook, is the only way that I can explain that. And I didn't feel like I was having a non-positive outlook prior to that, but it was something that was very staggering to me that I noticed. And I think that's also probably lifting some of that brain fog as well. And they also noticed some improvements in gut dysbiosis and immune readiness. So that's basically immune competency, how well is the immune system functioning, and the cholesterol levels went on rapamycin. There is one thing that I want to address in regard to the type of product that was used in this study. So one of the videos that I was referencing earlier that people have seen is that the rapamycin that was used in this particular study was compounded, and that is often the case because when they have these different study groups, they have different doses of the drugs, and then they also have a placebo. So they make all of these to look identical. That way it's double blind. The person administering the medication, the pharmacist dispensing the medication, they don't know what they're dispensing, but it's part of the study so that there is no bias introduced there. That being said, what they found is that the bioavailability, or the amount of rapamycin in those capsules during the study that was given, was very low. So it was a very, very low amount that was absorbed. And so one of the takeaways in the discussion of this Pearl study was we probably need to be dosing higher. However, what they did not do in this study is encapsulate this drug in an acid-resistant capsule. So it's taken in an oral capsule, and when you take it, it is destroyed or broken down by the hydrochloric acid in your gut, opening that capsule up prematurely and decreasing the amount that is absorbed. So at Physicians Preference Pharmacy from the beginning, we've been putting ours into a acid-resistant capsule so that that does not happen. That's how we can preserve the dose, the dosage form, and the efficacy and the bioavailability of this drug. So if you're looking to achieve longevity, improve brain fog, reduce inflammation, then this is certainly a repurposed drug that you want to check out. Studies are ongoing, a prescription is required, and certainly if you have questions, you can always call us at Physicians Preference Pharmacy at 281-828-9088, and we look forward to the privilege of serving you. At Physicians Preference Pharmacy, we specialize in compounding bioidentical hormones, which means that all of our hormone medications are made right here on site in our compounding labs. The term bioidentical means that the hormones in the products that you're taking, whether that's in a capsule, a tablet, or a cream form, are chemically identical to those which your body produces. So your body responds the same way it would to its own hormones. This is important because hormones work in the body as a lock and key system. Just like your front door, only one shape of a key will fit the way it should to unlock that door. And the same goes for how hormones work within your body. For a medication to be the most effective, with the least number of side effects, we must give your body something that it recognizes as its own. And this is why we choose bioidentical.
Information provided on this program is neither intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice and is not intended to replace the services of a physician, nor does it constitute a doctor-patient relationship. You should not use information from this radio program to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. If you have or suspect you have an urgent medical problem, promptly contact a professional healthcare provider or call 911. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution advises you to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider prior to starting any new treatment or with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Any application of the recommendations from this program is at the listener's discretion.